man who lives with Hedon. Under the scorching Lahore heat, as dark clouds suddenly gathered and the sweet scent of rain-soaked soil filled the air, Xavier was riding his old bicycle toward the university. Xavier belonged to a deeply impoverished family. His father had passed away during his childhood, and his mother had raised him by stitching clothes in neighborhood homes. Xavier didn't have fine clothes to wear, but his eyes held massive dreams of giving his mother a comfortable and dignified life. That very day, at a crowded traffic signal in Lahore, a gleaming black luxury car pulled up. The window rolled down, and Xavier's eyes fell upon a girl sitting inside, enjoying the gentle breeze. It was Anaya, dressed in a pure white outfit with her hair flowing free. She carried an innocence on her face that made the world stand still. The moment Xavier looked at her, it felt as if his heart skipped a beat. It was love at first sight, a pure emotion that anchored itself deep into his heart without a single thought. Anaya was the only daughter of the great tycoon, Chaudhry Shahnawaz, yet she possessed no arrogance. Suddenly, a heavy downpour began. Xavier was getting drenched on his bicycle, and his university books were getting ruined. Seeing this, Anaya stopped her car, rolled down her window, and said, "You are getting completely drenched, and your books will be ruined. Please, come inside, I will drop you." Xavier stood there, stunned and hesitant. He had never imagined in his wildest dreams that such a wealthy and beautiful girl would ever speak to him. Stammering a polite thank you, he stepped into the car. That ride to the university marked the first step of their beautiful friendship, the blossoming of love. Time flew by, and their friendship gradually deepened into an intense love. Xavier would wait for Anaya every single day at the university gate. He would bring her small, simple tokens of affection bought with his hard-earned money, sometimes a cheap book from an old bazaar, other times fresh jasmine flowers. Anaya didn't care for Xavier's lack of wealth. She fell in love with his simplicity, his absolute sincerity, and those inexpensive jasmine flowers. One evening, both were sitting by the banks of the river Ravi, watching the sunset paint the sky. Anaya suddenly grew quiet and asked sadly, "Xavier, what if I am forced to go far away from you, or if circumstances separate us? What will you do?" Xavier gently held Anaya's hand, looked straight into her eyes, and said, "Anaya, my life begins with you and ends with you. If you ever leave, this body might keep breathing, but the soul will be gone. I will remain faithful to you until my last breath." Tears welled up in Anaya's eyes, and she promised she would never abandon him. Little did they know, a terrifying storm was waiting to tear their lives apart. The wall of arrogance and cruelty. When Anaya's father, Chaudhry Shahnawaz, discovered that his only daughter was in love with a penniless, ordinary boy, his pride caught fire. He locked Anaya inside the house, confiscated her phone, and placed heavy security guards outside her room. Anaya wept bitterly, begging her father, "Papa, Xavier is a good man, he works so hard," but Shahnawaz refused to listen to a single word. On the other side, Shahnawaz sent his hired thugs after Xavier. One dark night, as Xavier was returning home with medicine for his mother, a group of unknown men cornered him and beat him brutally with iron rods. As he lay bleeding on the street, they warned him, "Stay within your limits, poor boy. If you are ever seen near Anaya again, we will burn your mother alive." Xavier dragged himself home in a shattered state. Seeing her son covered in blood, his mother broke down in tears. Yet, despite the broken bones, Xavier's heart beat only for Anaya. He refused to give up. The pain of separation and the wedding day. To protect his family's high social standing, Chaudhry Shahnawaz hastily arranged Anaya's marriage to Zubair, the son of his wealthiest business partner. Zubair was a deeply ill-mannered, abusive, and arrogant alcoholic who had no respect for women. Anaya, through her loyal old maidservant, managed to send a final message to Xavier for a secret meeting. They met one last time behind an abandoned, dilapidated building. Anaya was sobbing uncontrollably. Xavier held her tightly and pleaded, "Anaya, come with me. Let's run away far from here. I will labor day and night to keep you happy." But Anaya shook her head through her tears and replied, "Xavier, I love you more than life itself. But if I run away, my sick mother won't survive the shock, and my father will hunt you down and kill you. For the sake of my mother's life, I must make this sacrifice." The wedding day arrived. The entire city was illuminated with grand lights, and high society guests flooded the venue. Outside the grand marriage hall, hidden behind a dark wall, stood Xavier, tears streaming down his face. As Anaya's marriage vows were being read, Xavier felt as though his very soul was being ripped out of his chest. On that day, the innocent, gentle Xavier died, and inside him, a new Xavier was born. A man whose eyes no longer held love, but a burning, unquenchable fire of revenge. The fire of revenge and the ascent to power. Following the marriage, Anaya's life turned into a living hell. Zubair viewed her merely as a trophy. Whenever he suffered a loss in business or came home blinded by alcohol, he would unleash his frustration by beating and torturing Anaya, taunting her, "Are you still dreaming about that beggar boyfriend of yours?" Anaya was completely dead inside, quietly enduring her agonizing fate. Meanwhile, Xavier left Lahore and moved to the bustling city of Karachi. He forgot the difference between day and night, hunger and thirst. He started working as a manual laborer in a small logistics firm, but his sheer brilliance soon got him promoted to manager. Over the next 5 years, sacrificing every ounce of comfort and sleep, Xavier built his own powerhouse software and construction empire. He was no longer the helpless boy, he was now Xavier Khan, the city's most feared and cold-hearted billionaire tycoon. He never smiled. He had only one absolute obsession: to bring Chaudhry Shahnawaz and Zubair to their knees on the streets. The return and ultimate destruction. 5 years later, Xavier returned to Lahore as a formidable corporate giant. He immediately began targeting every single business project owned by Chaudhry Shahnawaz and Zubair. At a massive international business convention, Shahnawaz and Zubair were sitting arrogantly when suddenly, flanked by elite bodyguards, Xavier Khan walked into the hall. Shahnawaz and Zubair froze in sheer disbelief. "You, Xavier," stammered Shahnawaz. Xavier offered a terrifyingly cold smile and said, "Yes, Chaudhry Sahab. The same poor boy you threw into the dirt. Times change, and now, the time belongs to me." Systematically, Xavier bought out their company shares, filed massive fraud lawsuits against them, and pulled all international clients to his own firm. Within months, Chaudhry Shahnawaz's pride was crushed into ashes as he was pushed to the brink of bankruptcy. Zubair was buried under millions in debt. Xavier was finally achieving his revenge, yet his heart remained entirely hollow, a painful confrontation. One afternoon, as Xavier sat in his luxurious glass office, his secretary announced that a lady was desperately waiting to see him. When she stepped inside, the pen dropped from Xavier's hand. It was Anaya, but she was no longer the vibrant, radiant Anaya of his past. She stood before him fragile, pale, with deeply hollow, sorrowful eyes. Tears streaming down her face, Anaya whispered, "Xavier, you have ruined my father and dragged my husband to the streets. Your revenge is complete, isn't it? If you wanted to punish someone, you should have punished me. Why destroy them?" Xavier hardened his expression, his tone dropping to ice. "I was punished first, Anaya. I was left bleeding on the pavement while you walked into a wealthy marriage. Your father's money stole my love. Today, I took away his money." Anaya cried out in agony, "Xavier, you don't know the hell I have been living in. I only married him to save my mother's life, but I received nothing but bleeding wounds and torture in return. Even today, my heart beats only for you." Hearing this, a massive emotional storm surged inside Xavier, but masking his feelings with a stone-cold face, he commanded her to leave his office. The dark truth and the final verdict. A few days later, devastating news reached Xavier. Driven mad by bankruptcy and alcohol, Zubair had brutally assaulted Anaya, blaming her past relationship with Xavier for his downfall. Anaya had been rushed to the hospital, fighting for her life in critical condition. Dropping everything, Xavier rushed to the hospital. When he entered the ICU and saw Anaya hooked to a ventilator, her fragile body covered in severe bruises, the ghost of his revenge instantly vanished. Tears fell freely from his eyes. He realized with absolute horror that his blind hatred and quest for vengeance had only brought more agony to the one person he loved most in the world. Xavier immediately brought in the city's top legal minds and highest-ranking police officers. He handed over undeniable evidence of domestic violence, financial fraud, and attempted murder to the police. Zubair was swiftly arrested and thrown into a high-security prison. Chaudhry Shahnawaz arrived at the hospital, his entire ego completely shattered. He fell to his knees before Xavier, weeping bitterly, "Please forgive me, my son. In the arrogance of my wealth, I turned my daughter's life into hell and failed to recognize a gem like you." Xavier gently raised him up and said, "Chaudhry Sahab, the mistake was yours, but the punishment was suffered by all of us." The triumph of true love. Several months passed. Anaya made a full recovery and legally divorced Zubair. With Xavier's backing and guidance, Chaudhry Shahnawaz managed to rebuild a modest business, but this time, his heart was filled with humility and profound respect for the less fortunate. One beautiful evening, the weather mirrored the exact day of their very first meeting, a cool breeze blowing with a light, magical drizzle. Xavier took Anaya back to the familiar banks of the river Ravi, the spot where they had woven dreams as youngsters. Xavier dropped to one knee in front of Anaya, holding out a beautiful bouquet of fresh jasmine flowers. He looked up at her and said, "Anaya, hatred had turned my heart to stone, but your pure love brought it back to life. Will you accept this changed Xavier back into your life?" Asterisk.